Have you ever noticed that the more we speak, the less we are truly heard? We fill every moment with words, explaining, defending, sharing, reacting, as if silence were a void that must be conquered. Yet the louder life becomes, the more peace quietly slips away. Modern life glorifies noise. We measure our worth by how visible we are, how often we speak, how many listen. But in chasing attention, we forget the one voice that matters most, the quiet whisper within. We scroll endlessly, respond instantly, and express constantly, until our minds are overflowing and our hearts are empty. We've mistaken activity for aliveness and noise for connection. But there comes a moment, perhaps late at night, when the phone is silent and the world stops demanding. When you feel something sacred stirring beneath the noise. That stillness is not emptiness. It is awareness itself, the space where life breathes before thought, before words, before identity. Buddhist wisdom reminds us that silence is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything that's real. Just as still water reflects the sky, a still mind begins to reflect truth. When the surface of the heart grows quiet, the hidden stars of understanding appear one by one. So maybe the real question isn't, how can I be heard? Maybe it's, what have I stopped hearing within myself? Because in a world that rewards noise, silence becomes rebellion. And in a life built on proving, awareness becomes liberation. Lesson 1. The strength. Hidden in stillness. There is a quiet strength that most of us overlook. The strength hidden in stillness. We're taught that power belongs to those who speak the loudest, move the fastest, and fight the hardest. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that the deepest kind of power doesn't roar. It rests. It listens. It observes without being pulled by every passing emotion. True strength is not about controlling life. It's about remaining calm and aware as life unfolds. Silence is not weakness. It is active strength. It takes courage to pause when your mind urges you to react, and patience to listen when your ego wants to prove a point. Just like a lake that reflects the sky only when it's still, your mind can only reflect truth when it's quiet. When stirred by anger, fear, or the need to be understood, everything becomes distorted. But when you allow stillness to return, clarity rises naturally, like sunlight emerging after a storm. In Buddhist practice, this state is known as samatha, tranquil concentration. It is the art of letting your awareness settle until wisdom begins to surface on its own. Each time you choose calm over argument, presence over noise, you strengthen this inner foundation. You begin to understand that peace isn't something you find, it's something you uncover once you stop disturbing it. Think about how draining it feels to keep explaining yourself, to defend your truth again and again. Every time you do, a little of your inner energy slips away. Stillness gathers it back. It restores what noise and reaction steal from you. In silence, your thoughts become lighter, your heart steadier, your energy whole again. When you stop demanding to be heard, you begin to hear yourself. That is where true power lives, not in being understood, but in understanding. Because silence was never emptiness, it was strength waiting to be remembered. In silence, life begins to whisper what noise could never tell you. Lesson 2. The art of turning inward. We live in a world that constantly pulls our attention outward. Notifications flash, voices compete, and comparisons never stop. It's easy to forget that the energy we spend trying to keep up with the world was meant to nourish our own growth. Turning inward isn't selfish, it's sacred. It's a return to the source of your awareness, the quiet space from which peace, clarity, and wisdom naturally arise. The mind is like a lamp. When it faces outward, it lights the world. You see everything around you, but very little of yourself. When you turn it inward, that same light begins to illuminate your inner landscape. You start to notice the patterns of your thoughts, the stories you tell yourself, and the emotions you've buried beneath busyness. What was once unseen begins to shine in gentle awareness. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine all the energy you've scattered, every thought given to someone's opinion, every worry about being liked, every ounce of attention spent on things beyond your control. Picture those fragments of energy floating back to you like golden threads, returning home. Feel them settle softly in your chest. That warmth, that fullness, that's your power coming back. That's you remembering your own center. Modern life thrives on distraction. The digital world teaches us to measure worth in reactions, likes, and validation. But every time you compare yourself, you disconnect a little more from your own light. The Buddhist path invites you to reverse that flow, to draw energy back from the noise and rest it gently within awareness. Where attention goes, energy flows. When your attention returns inward, harmony returns too. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean withdrawing from the world. It means re-entering it with balance. From this quiet center, your actions become clearer, your words softer, and your presence deeper. You no longer react to life, you respond with wisdom. You stop scattering your energy across 1,000 concerns and start living from wholeness. The art of turning inward is the art of remembering who you are beneath the noise. Because when your energy belongs to you again, peace is no longer something you search for, it becomes the atmosphere you live in. Lesson 3. The language of quiet power. True power doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't shout, demand, or compete for attention. It simply is. We often mistake loudness for strength and silence for weakness, but in truth, the deepest influence belongs to those who are anchored in calm presence. When you've mastered your inner state, you no longer need to prove anything. Your stillness becomes its own kind of language, one that speaks directly to the hearts of others without a single word. The sun never speaks, yet everything grows in its light. The ocean doesn't raise its voice, yet it shapes continents and carves the edges of the world. Real power is quiet because it comes from certainty, not from struggle. When your heart is steady and your mind unshaken, you become like the sun and the sea, soft in expression, but infinite in reach. In Buddhist wisdom, this quiet strength is known as equanimity. It's the ability to remain balanced amid chaos, to stay rooted in awareness when life trembles around you. Equanimity doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care without being consumed. You can face challenge without losing center, meet anger without hostility, and stand in truth without the need to convince. A peaceful mind carries its own gravity. Others feel it even when you say nothing. It draws respect not through dominance, but through presence. When you walk into a room anchored in calm, your energy speaks louder than any words could. People feel safer around peace because it reminds them of what they've been searching for within themselves. So instead of reacting, radiate. Instead of arguing, align. You don't need to control the noise around you when you've mastered the silence within. The most powerful beings in history were not always the loudest. They were the ones whose stillness changed the atmosphere. Power that comes from ego fades the moment it's challenged. But power that rises from awareness endures through any storm. Because real authority isn't claimed, it's felt. And the world listens differently to those who no longer need to speak. Lesson 4. The energy of restraint. In a world that glorifies instant replies and quick emotions, restraint feels almost forgotten. We're conditioned to react, to defend, to prove, to respond before silence can settle. Yet Buddhist wisdom teaches that every moment you pause instead of reacting, you reclaim a piece of your power. True mastery isn't in controlling others, it's in mastering the storm within yourself. Each reaction drains energy from your center. When anger, fear, or pride pull you into conflict, you lose clarity. But the moment you pause, awareness returns. It's in that breath between impulse and action that freedom lives. Reaction binds you to chaos. Response liberates you. The person who can pause, who can wait, breathe, and choose, holds far greater power than the one who speaks first. Imagine a still pond. When undisturbed, it mirrors the sky perfectly. But the moment a stone is thrown, ripples blur its reflection. Your mind is the same. The more it reacts, the more distorted truth becomes. When you remain still, what's real becomes visible again. Clarity is never found in turbulence. It appears only in calm. So, before replying, breathe once. Feel that single breath return your energy to you. Notice how your heartbeat steadies, how the urge to defend slowly softens. In that silence, you are no longer being pulled by the world. You are shaping it through presence. This is not weakness. This is wisdom. The energy you withhold from reaction transforms into luminous presence. It becomes the quiet force that others sense but cannot define. You stop being a participant in every storm and start becoming the calm that ends it. Remember this simple truth. Not everything deserves your reaction, but everything benefits from your awareness. Every time you choose patience over impulse, peace over pride, you strengthen the energy that cannot be shaken. Because the strongest power is not in movement, it's in stillness that refuses to be disturbed. Lesson 5. Transcending negativity through noble silence. Not every battle deserves your voice. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is not respond. In Buddhism, this is known as noble silence, a silence born not from fear or avoidance, but from deep compassion and emotional mastery. When you choose silence from awareness, not ego, you transform from being part of the noise to being part of the peace. Think of negativity as a wave crashing toward you. Most people instinctively push back, creating more turbulence, but the awakened mind becomes like the ocean itself, vast, deep, and unmoved. When anger, gossip, or misunderstanding reach you, they dissolve into your stillness because there's nothing for them to collide with. This is the power of noble silence. The ability to absorb without absorbing, to feel without reacting, to understand without needing to defend. Visualize yourself surrounded by a soft golden light, the light of awareness. When someone throws words born of pain or ignorance, this light receives them gently and transforms them into stillness. You don't need to argue or explain. The light itself is your shield. Negativity feeds on reaction. When you offer none, it starves. The Buddha taught, hatred never ends through hatred, it ends through love. Silence, when born of wisdom, is love in action. It's the refusal to continue a cycle of suffering. When you choose not to answer every provocation, you are not surrendering. You are transcending. You are choosing peace over ego, compassion over pride. Ask yourself, how many moments of peace have I lost trying to prove a point? How many times have I allowed noise to enter the sacred space of my calm? The truth is, not every voice deserves an answer. Some things resolve not through words, but through stillness. So the next time someone misunderstands or attacks you, remember, you have no duty to descend into the same chaos that trapped them. Simply breathe, let your awareness expand, and let silence speak for you. Because your calm becomes your language, and your silence becomes your statement. Lesson 6. Discipline, the quiet shape of freedom. Discipline is often misunderstood. We see it as control, restriction, or punishment, a tightening of life's natural rhythm. But in truth, discipline is love in motion. It is the daily act of honoring your own peace, of showing up for your inner self, even when no one is watching. Real discipline isn't about forcing the mind. It's about guiding it back, gently and consistently, to the place it belongs, awareness. Imagine lighting a small candle every morning. You may not notice its light change the room instantly, yet over time it warms the space, pushing darkness quietly to the corners. Each small act of mindfulness, each breath taken in awareness, each word spoken with care, each pause before reaction, is a candle lit in the temple of your being. These humble rituals of consistency build unshakable calm. Buddhist teaching reminds us that great transformation doesn't happen in moments of intensity, but through gentle repetition. The monk becomes awakened not by one profound meditation, but by returning to stillness again and again. In the same way, discipline is not rigidity, it is devotion. It is the invisible current beneath the river that keeps it flowing steadily toward the sea. Silence and discipline are twin practices of freedom. Both happen quietly, unseen by the world, yet both shape your life profoundly. The world may celebrate achievement, but the awakened spirit celebrates consistency, the soft promise you keep with yourself each day. Through that promise, your peace strengthens, your awareness deepens, and your life begins to align effortlessly with clarity and flow. Because in the end, it's not force that sets you free, it's faithful presence. Every time you choose awareness over distraction, patience over impulse, practice over comfort, you carve a path toward liberation. Consistency is the quiet current beneath the river that makes it flow. Lesson 7. Release the need to be understood. One of the quietest forms of suffering is the constant need to be understood. We try to explain, to justify, to make others see the truth that lives in our hearts. Yet the more we explain, the less understood we often feel. In trying to make others see us, we lose sight of ourselves. There's a deep peace waiting for the moment you stop seeking validation and begin to trust your own awareness. The moon never explains its glow, it simply shines. It doesn't argue with the darkness or prove its light to anyone. And still the world feels its presence every night. That is the nature of truth. It doesn't need defense. It reveals itself in time. In Buddhist wisdom, this is known as upekkha, equanimity, born from non-attachment. It is the freedom that arises when you stop tying your peace to how others perceive you. Imagine walking away from the urge to explain. With every step, the weight of misunderstanding begins to fall away. The voices that once demanded your response fade into distance. You no longer feel the need to correct how others see you because you've remembered who you are beneath their opinions. The air feels lighter, the path quieter, and your heart finally unclenches. You realize that understanding is not something you must earn. It is something that naturally arises in those who are meant to see you. Being misunderstood can feel painful because it touches the ego, the part of us that longs to be recognized and affirmed. But when you begin to live from awareness instead of ego, you see that misunderstanding doesn't harm truth. It only reveals who was never ready to meet it. You start to understand that peace is not found in agreement. It's found in alignment. When your words, actions, and intentions are clear within yourself, you no longer need them to be approved by others. This is not indifference. It's spiritual maturity. It's the quiet knowing that everyone interprets life through their own level of awareness. Some will meet your truth with understanding, others with judgment, and both are okay. You can wish them well, even in their misunderstanding, and continue walking your path with grace. There is a strength in silence that no explanation can match. Your calm becomes your boundary. Your stillness becomes your truth. And your presence begins to communicate more than your words ever could. So, when you feel the pull to defend yourself, pause. Let your silence carry what your words no longer need to. Those who truly see you will understand your silence. The rest were never meant to define your peace. Because freedom doesn't come from being understood. It comes from being at peace with not needing to be. Lesson 8. Stillness as alignment. There comes a point on every spiritual path when you begin to realize that all the running, the striving, the proving, the constant reaching for more, was never really taking you anywhere. You were chasing what was already trying to find you. Life is not something to be conquered. It is something to be aligned with. And the moment you stop running, something miraculous begins to happen. Life itself starts moving toward you. Imagine sitting beside a quiet river. The water doesn't rush to reach the ocean. It flows naturally, guided by gravity, by rhythm, by something older and wiser than thought. There's no struggle in its movement, no tension in its journey. It knows where to go because its nature is to flow. And yet, if you were to fight the current, if you tried to push the water faster or direct its path, you'd only create chaos and exhaustion. The same is true for life. The more you force, the more resistance you meet. But when you learn to sit still and listen, life reveals that it has always known the way. Buddhist wisdom teaches that surrender is not weakness, it is deep trust. It's a softening of the mind, a loosening of the grip that says, I must control everything to be safe. Surrender is the recognition that you are already being carried by something larger than yourself. Just as your breath moves without effort, just as your heart beats without command, life continues to unfold in its own perfect rhythm. Stillness allows you to see that truth. Close your eyes for a moment and notice your breath. You don't have to create it. It's already there. Inhale, exhale, life moving through you, giving without asking. This is the ultimate reminder of trust. You don't control your breath, yet it sustains you. You don't order your heart to beat, yet it never forgets its rhythm. In the same way, existence doesn't require your control. It simply asks for your presence. When you live in alignment with this flow, peace replaces pressure. You stop forcing outcomes and start cooperating with the intelligence of life itself. Situations that once felt like obstacles begin to rearrange effortlessly because you're no longer pushing against the current. You've joined it. Stillness is not the absence of action, it's the absence of resistance. From stillness, every action becomes more precise, more powerful, more alive. It takes faith to trust this rhythm, especially in a world that celebrates endless motion. We're taught that rest is laziness, that stillness is unproductive, that surrender is giving up. But the truth is, constant movement often comes from fear. The fear that if we stop, everything will fall apart. Yet when you stop long enough to listen, you realize that life doesn't collapse in your stillness. It settles into harmony. Think of a leaf floating on the river. It doesn't try to reach the ocean, yet it always arrives. The same intelligence that carries the leaf carries you. When you stop trying to control the direction, you begin to feel this current. Gentle, quiet, unforced. Every breath, every experience, every encounter becomes part of the flow, leading you exactly where you're meant to be. This is the essence of mindfulness, being fully present with what is, without needing it to change. When you release the tension of constant striving, awareness deepens. You begin to move through the world with grace instead of struggle. You see that what you were chasing was never separate from you. It was simply waiting for you to be still enough to notice it. So ask yourself, what am I pushing too hard to control? What am I trying to make happen before it's time? What would happen if I stopped forcing and started trusting? The answers won't come through thinking, they'll come through silence. When you allow yourself to be still, life begins to reveal its rhythm. Opportunities unfold naturally. People appear at the right time. The path that once seemed uncertain becomes clear. It's not because the world changed, it's because your alignment did. Stillness is not inaction. It is pure participation with the deeper movement of existence. It is choosing to flow rather than to force, to listen rather than to demand. In that space of surrender, life doesn't stop, it begins. So let go of the chase, sit by the river of your own being and trust its current. Watch how everything you once pursued starts to find its way back to you. Quietly, effortlessly, beautifully. Because the truth is simple. When you stop running, life begins to move toward you. And in that sacred stillness, you discover that the flow you were seeking was never out there. It has always been within you. Lesson 9, Detachment, the path to effortless flow. There's a quiet kind of strength that comes when you stop trying to hold on to everything. Most people mistake letting go for losing, as if release means failure or weakness. But in Buddhist philosophy, detachment is not indifference. It's faith in motion. It's the deep trust that what's meant for you cannot pass you by, and what leaves was never yours to control. Letting go isn't abandoning life. It's allowing life to move through you with grace. Imagine your hands tightly clenched around a handful of sand. The harder you grip, the faster it slips through your fingers. But when you open your palms, the sand settles softly and stays. That's how energy works. That's how peace works. The more you cling to people, outcomes, and ideas of how life should be, the more tension you create. Yet the moment you open your hands, the moment you release the need to control, everything begins to settle naturally into its rightful place. In Buddhism, this freedom is rooted in the teaching of anatta, non-ownership. Nothing in this world truly belongs to us, not even our thoughts or emotions. Everything arises, lingers for a time, and eventually passes. Trying to possess what is meant to flow is like trying to trap the wind in a box. The tighter you close the lid, the faster the air disappears. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care without clinging, love without needing, and give without expecting. It is the ultimate act of faith in the wisdom of life. Consider how exhausting it feels to constantly manage every detail: relationships, plans, appearances, outcomes. Control is seductive because it promises safety, but in truth, it breeds anxiety. Every time life shifts outside your expectations, the illusion of control shatters and suffering begins. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering because it ties your happiness to things that are always changing. Detachment is the opposite. It's returning to the unshakable stillness within, where peace isn't dependent on how things unfold. Letting go doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing what's right and allowing the results to come as they will. It means acting from clarity rather than fear, from trust rather than demand. When you stop clutching at outcomes, life finally has room to respond. Energy that was trapped in anxiety begins to flow again, through creativity, intuition, and calm awareness. You start to feel lighter, freer, more alive. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself holding on to something that's been weighing on you: a person, a fear, a memory, a plan. See yourself opening your hand and releasing it gently into the air. Watch how it drifts away, not in loss, but in freedom. Feel the space that remains, open, quiet, and alive. That space is where peace begins. This practice of letting go is not escape, it's alignment. It's stepping back into harmony with the natural rhythm of existence. Trees don't cling to their leaves when autumn arrives. They release them with grace, knowing that spring will come again. In the same way, when you release control, you invite renewal. You make space for new experiences, deeper connections, and unexpected blessings to enter. In truth, detachment is the art of trust. It's faith that the universe knows your destination better than your fear does. It's understanding that when one door closes, it's not rejection, it's redirection. Every release is a return to stillness, to freedom, to your truest self. So ask yourself, what am I still holding on to that no longer serves my peace? What have I been afraid to release, believing I might lose something, when in reality, I might gain everything? Every time you loosen your grip, you align with the greater flow of life. Because peace doesn't come from getting what you want. It comes from no longer needing to hold it so tightly. Peace begins where grip ends. Lesson 10. The unshakable mind. Imagine standing on the shore, watching the ocean in the middle of a storm. The waves crash and rise, the surface roars, and everything above seems chaotic and wild. But deep beneath that storm, miles below, the sea remains still, untouched, perfectly calm. That deep, silent layer of the ocean is what the awakened mind feels like. No matter how fierce the winds of life become, its depths remain unmoved. That is the essence of true mastery, the unshakable mind. Most of us live at the surface, tossed by every wave. A word from someone can disturb our peace. A small failure can ripple through our confidence. One unexpected event can send the entire day spiraling. But in Buddhist teaching, awareness invites us to dive deeper, to move beyond the surface thoughts, emotions, and reactions, into the stillness beneath. That stillness has been there all along, waiting patiently beneath the noise. It's the part of you that witnesses every experience, but is never harmed by any of them. This is the foundation of mastery through awareness. Nothing outside of you has the power to disturb what is calm within you unless you give it permission. The world will always fluctuate. Storms come and go, people rise and fall, fortune shifts. But your peace doesn't have to move with it. The mind trained in awareness learns to observe without absorbing. It sees life's changes as passing weather, not permanent reality. When something upsets you, notice how quickly the mind wants to react, how the body tightens, the breath shortens, the voice rises. In that instant, you have a choice, to be pulled by the wave or to rest in the depth beneath it. Awareness creates that space between impulse and action. The Buddha called this the gap of liberation, the sacred pause where reaction ends and wisdom begins. Whenever you feel disturbed, remind yourself, I am not the storm. I am the sky it passes through. The practice is not to suppress your feelings, but to meet them with presence, to say, I see you, anger. I feel you, fear. But you are not who I am. When you witness emotions instead of being consumed by them, they lose their power. Observation is liberation. Reaction is bondage. The calm mind cannot be broken. The calm mind cannot be shaken. Say it softly, like a mantra that anchors you each time life trembles. This repetition is not just a reminder, it's a retraining. You're teaching your awareness where to rest, not in chaos, but in clarity. Every moment you choose to observe rather than absorb, you strengthen that still core within you. In daily life, this practice transforms everything. You begin to see challenges not as threats, but as teachers. Criticism becomes an opportunity to understand, not to defend. Delays and disappointments no longer steal your peace. They reveal your attachment to control. You begin to notice that peace isn't the absence of difficulty, it's the presence of understanding. Try this small practice. The next time something disturbs you, pause. Feel your feet on the ground. Take one conscious breath. Imagine that breath sinking deep into the ocean of your being, far below the waves. There, in that quiet depth, nothing can touch you. Stay there for a moment. Feel how steady, how whole, how eternal that space feels. That's who you truly are. The awareness, not the emotion. The depth, not the surface. Over time, this awareness becomes instinct. You don't have to force yourself to stay calm. Calm becomes your nature. You no longer fight storms. You let them pass, knowing they cannot harm what is already still. This is the quiet power of the awakened mind. It influences without force. It endures without resistance. It acts without aggression. Buddhist wisdom teaches that life itself is a balance of movement and stillness. The mind that chases control will always be exhausted. The mind that rests in awareness will always be free. True mastery isn't about eliminating the storms of life. It's about remembering that peace was never lost to begin with. So, when life shakes you, when the surface feels rough and uncertain, remember, the waves are not who you are. Go deeper. Rest in that silent space beneath all noise, and you will feel something unmovable, a peace that has been waiting patiently for your return. The calm mind cannot be broken. The calm mind cannot be shaken. The calm mind cannot be taken by fear, noise, or doubt, because true power is not in control, it's in calm. And when you live from that unshakable center, life begins to mirror your stillness. The storms still come, but you no longer tremble. The winds still blow, but you no longer resist. You walk through chaos as peace itself, steady, grounded, and free. This is the mind of awakening, untouched, unwavering, and infinite in its depth. The calm mind cannot be broken. The calm mind cannot be shaken. And that peace, that quiet strength, is who you truly are. Lesson 11. Quiet confidence, the final blessing. True confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't demand to be seen or constantly search for proof. It moves quietly, rooted, graceful, and sure. In a world that rewards noise, quiet confidence is a rare and sacred power. It is the strength that comes not from needing to be heard, but from knowing you already are. When you reach this space of inner certainty, you stop chasing validation. You stop explaining. You stop performing. You simply live from truth, and that truth begins to speak for itself. Confidence is not the armor you wear to impress the world. It is the peace you carry when no one is watching. It is the calm assurance that your worth is not up for negotiation. Real confidence doesn't arise from control or comparison. It blossoms naturally from alignment. The more you live in harmony with your values, the less you feel the need to convince anyone of your place in the world. You begin to understand that life is not a stage. It's a practice of presence. Imagine a stalk of bamboo swaying in the wind. It bends, but it never breaks. It doesn't resist the storm, it moves with it. That is quiet confidence. Strength without rigidity, power without pride. The bamboo knows that resilience doesn't mean never falling. It means always rising again, softer, yet stronger than before. In the same way, your calm flexibility becomes your power. You no longer need to win every moment. You simply meet each one with grace. Buddhist wisdom teaches that humility is the highest form of strength. The truly wise never need to prove their wisdom. It radiates through their presence. The truly strong never need to dominate. Their stillness commands respect more than any display of force ever could. When you walk with humility, you stop trying to be enough because you finally realize you already are. Confidence is not about speaking louder, it's about listening deeper. It's found in those who act without needing to be noticed, who trust their pace even when the world rushes ahead, who stand tall without needing applause. These are the people who move mountains quietly. Their lives ripple outward, not through noise, but through integrity. You no longer need to prove your worth. Your calm proves it for you. Each breath taken with awareness, each step made in peace, each choice rooted in compassion, all of these become the quiet language of confidence. You start to notice that people feel safer around your stillness, inspired by your steadiness, and comforted by your presence. You don't need to tell them who you are, they simply feel it. So as you reach this final lesson, pause and reflect on the journey you've walked. You've learned to embrace stillness, to release control, to trust the flow of life, and now, to walk in confidence that doesn't depend on noise or recognition. The highest power is not in domination or persuasion, but in peace that cannot be shaken. Let this final blessing close the circle of your learning. May you walk in quiet strength. May your silence speak what words cannot. And may peace always find you before the world does. Because in the end, confidence isn't about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about being the calmest presence, and that presence, once awakened, moves through the world like light, steady, gentle, unstoppable.